Exclusive contracted novel by Falun Novel Network. Understanding the Sky. Tilapia, realizing the three-body technology crossing parallel worlds, Su Chen became a freshman in the directing department of Beijing University. Activate the cognitive system. Professional course teachers take students to watch movies, commonly known as pulling movies. Classmates, in the movie, the lighthouse country F-35C has a vertical takeoff and landing capability on the aircraft carrier deck. We need to face the gap. Su Chen seemed lost in thought. The next day, Su Chen handed in his homework and also had physics props such as a 20C vertical takeoff and landing fighter jet. The old professor sat on the prop, flew straight to an altitude of 50 meters, and then instantly flew to Mach 2. Professor scared to pee. Teachers and students scream. Film and television sound course. The teacher takes out the opening credits of Transformers, and Su Chen develops an ultra-thin stealing robot. Confused in the film theory class, the professor said that wandering movie props have practical significance. Su Chen took out a single soldier door frame robot prop. The old academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences packed his luggage overnight and checked into Beijing, but he couldn't even catch up. Professor. The General Staff Equipment Department has gone too far. I have been pulling videos for 6 months in a row. Now let me pull the space elevator. Dean. Su Chen, not the leader. The prop warehouse of Beijing is fully booked. Falun Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Truth, Truth, or Truth. Seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Classmates, the purpose of documentaries is to be true. Remember, what we at Beijing are filming is a documentary, and you are the documentary directors at Beijing, not just war and chaos. Not for the sake of ratings and traffic, but for the sake of boasting about the great craftsman every day. That craftsman, holding the emergency stop button of the lathe, used it as a fine tuning precision button, still pretending to twist and twist there. I looked embarrassed and embarrassed. Our documentary from Beijing aims to provide authentic visuals. Real, or TM real. Hu Qinghe, a renowned documentary director at Beijing. In the entire Dragon Kingdom, they are all the top-tier people in the documentary. On the weathered cheeks, weathered by wind and frost. At this moment it was a serious and sincere way for a freshman from Beijing University of Radio and Television in front of him. Seeing many students below feeling dissatisfied, Hu Qinghe directly pressed the computer next to him. At the next moment, a picture is projected from the projector. The footage comes from a military documentary abroad. The documentary footage shows a fighter jet taking off from the deck of an aircraft carrier at a short distance of only 50 meters. The screen is very simple, without montage or exaggerated special effects. But the entire F-35B fighter jet was captured with a majestic eagle spreading its wings. Next is another shot. Transfer to another F-35B fighter jet, under the command of the pilot's red fluorescent baton. Start taking off slowly in place. The 5-minute documentary clip quickly ended. Classmates, this is a great documentary clip. No need for exaggerated shooting techniques, no need for montage, no need for transitional special effects, just capture the unique vertical/short-range takeoff and landing of Lighthouse's F-35B carrier-based aircraft. After watching this documentary, we Dragon people know that there is still a big gap between our country and Lighthouse country in terms of carrier-based aircraft. Our Dragon country does not have carrier-based aircraft with vertical/short-range 50-meter runways, nor do we have tilt-rotor Osprey helicopters. Our audience will face the gap with other Western countries. Our young people will strive to catch up, and more young people will choose to apply to military academies. In the future, more young people will invest in national defense construction. Our chips are being choked. After watching our documentary, more young people will choose to enter the chip manufacturing industry. Sooner or later, our chips will turn around and firmly hold the necks of Western countries. Hu Qinghe knocked hard on the blackboard. Our documentary from Beijing can have no ratings or no traffic. There must be something in our Beijing documentary. Hu Qinghe extended 2 fingers. After a while, he slowly uttered 2 words. Warning. Awakening the people of our country and not forgetting national shame. Wake up to this country, face the gap, and strive to catch up. Wake up to our nation, even though the country is big, forget about war and face danger. Who can do this? Even if you are here with me, you have truly graduated. With a loud bang, all the students in the classroom applauded. Su Chen shook his head, not knowing why he appeared again in the long-lost university classroom. What is the situation? Has he graduated for many years? Why did you go back to college again? At this moment, a mechanical sound rang in Su Chen's ear. Congratulations to the host for successfully binding the wisdom against heaven system. This system can activate the speed perception, intelligence, and reach the pinnacle of humanity based on what the host has learned on campus. Host. Su Chen level. LV1 identity. Freshman student from Beijing University of Radio and Television, Director Department Intelligence. X 5 times the intelligence. As the host level up, their understanding can also improve. It has been detected that the host classroom is currently watching a documentary, commonly known as pulling a film. Enable X1 comprehension, enable X2 comprehension, enable X3 comprehension, enable X4 comprehension, enable X5 comprehension. Congratulations to the host, the classroom has an incredible understanding and successfully comprehends. 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift fan vertical takeoff and landing system. The technical information has been issued, please check it by the host. Su Chen suddenly felt a surge of information pouring in. At this moment, a classmate beside him tugged at Su Chen's hem. Lao Su, what are you thinking? Hurry up and applaud. Professor Hu Qinghe is narrow-minded. If you don't applaud, be careful not to encounter difficulties later on. Su Chen's pupils contracted. Remembering the fear of failing college, Su Chen quickly applauded along. However, what he is still thinking about is the technology of that system. 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system. It seems that it's very fragrant, seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Understanding system, seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Hu Qinghe nodded with satisfaction when he saw that his classmates understood. Tomorrow is the weekend, and this homework is on Monday. Everyone is submitting a 5-minute short film on military-themed documentaries. Remember my demands, be true. After class. Suddenly, there was a howl of grief below the podium. Hu Qinghe is known for his strictness. Su Chen's roommate, the classmate who reminded him just now, knows that this weekend has been ruined again. The homework shot in 2 days may not meet Hu Qinghe's requirements. After Hu Qinghe walked out of the classroom happily, Su Chen politely declined the invitation to have dinner with his roommates. He sat in the classroom, still immersed in the system. Open the data of the 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system. Activate cognitive understanding. Detected host reading data. Enable X1 comprehension, enable X2 comprehension, enable X3 comprehension, enable X4 comprehension, enable X5 comprehension. Su Chen carefully read the information obtained through the pull tab, only then did he realize how valuable this information is. Vertical takeoff and landing fighter jet is a type of aircraft that can take off and land without the need for taxiing. It can follow ground forces to engage in combat on forward positions or attack ships, with fast response and flexible use. Simply put, he can replace some of the work of helicopters, but in terms of firepower, speed, and flight altitude, he far surpasses helicopters. The helicopter only ran multiple blocks, 300 km per hour, which is the maximum speed for diving. Not to mention the voyage. The helicopter is 900 km away, we need to refuel quickly. There are two main types of vertical takeoff and landing fighter jets. One type is jet thrust, which uses the lift generated by the engine when it injects air downwards to overcome the effect of gravity, such as John Bull's Harrier and Su Lien's Jacques 141. The other type is driven by air force, which refers to the use of the force between air and air, mainly atmospheric pressure difference, supplemented by reaction force, to provide upward and downward lift. For example, the lift fan carrier-based aircraft of the US F-35B. Advantages of vertical takeoff and landing fighter jets. It can reduce or get rid of dependence on the runway, and only requires a small amount of flat ground to rise up and land vertically. In war, aircraft can be dispersed for flexible deployment, transfer, and camouflage, making it less likely to be detected by the enemy. Attendance rates are also greatly increased, and the impact on the enemy is highly sudden, greatly improving the aircraft's survival ability on the battlefield. After studying the materials, Su Chen knew. Vertical takeoff fighter jet, okay. It can only be said to be very fragrant. However, the drawbacks of this thing are too obvious, and the Dragon Kingdom has not put in any effort to study it. Even if F-35B is a lighthouse country, it is mainly a foreign trade model. To put it bluntly, vertical takeoff is a gimmick used to make money. Their Atlantic fleet was only symbolically equipped with some F-35B. The reason behind it is that this thing is too easy to crash airplanes. The flight attitude control system requires extremely high requirements. A crosswind on the sea surface could potentially cause F-35B to fall onto the deck. Moreover, the wings of vertical takeoff and landing fighter jets cannot provide lift and can only rely on engines to provide lift, which means that the takeoff weight of the aircraft is very light and there are very few weapons that can be carried. In addition, during vertical takeoff, the engine consumes more fuel, and the remaining range after takeoff is not much. Even when considering vertical landing, the combat radius will become very small. In addition, the flight attitude control of aircraft is difficult and requires high requirements for avionics and stability systems. In fact, it's just that the technology is not up to standard, and even lighthouse country cannot fully grasp it. So I don't use it much myself. Kosuchin has an understanding of the anti-heaven system. His skills are up to standard. Su Chen turned around and walked towards the prop factory of Beidien. Beidien has its own prop factory, which has a complete range of advanced machine tools. Don't watch the movie props first. Back then, director Zhang had people start planting chrysanthemums 1 year in advance in order to shoot the chrysanthemum stage. In order to restore the authenticity of the sinking of the Titanic back then. The crew replicated a full dot-size model measuring 236 meters in a huge pool. The movie Jaws, which ruined the coastal tourism industry in Lighthouse Country, was a childhood nightmare for many people. The crew originally planned to train a great white shark, but later found themselves too naive. It's simply not possible. So the crew produced a mechanical great white shark, which cost nearly $3 million. At that time, throwing this thing into the water directly scared many tourists on the Hawaiian beach out of flight. Su Chen quickly entered the prop factory workshop with his student ID card. The difference between the 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system and the F-35B is that the F-35B actually uses the main control turbofan aircraft engine, which acts on the vertical fan through a clutch. And Su Chen's 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system is directly driven by electricity. The most core is to use an advanced rare earth electric motor. Rare earth electric motors are more powerful in converting electrical energy into kinetic energy than graphene. F-35B requires a portion of the power separated from the aircraft engine, equivalent to 1 horse pulling 2 cars. The system provides Su Chen with a 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system. Directly driven by an electric motor, 2 horses pull a car. The maximum combined force generated by the F-35B lift system and the tail nozzle can reach 18.9 tons. And Su Chen's standalone 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system does not consume aircraft engine power. The combined force with the 3-dimensional vector nozzle of the aircraft engine can achieve a maximum takeoff weight of over 45 tons. You should know that the 5th-generation fighter jets of Dragon Country currently only have an empty weight of 17 tons. With full ammunition, the maximum takeoff weight can reach 37 tons. Whether it's the F-22 or the 5th-generation fighter of Dragon Country, its maximum takeoff weight is 37 tons, and it can only take off after taxiing on a runway of nearly 2 kilometers. Under the condition of the 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system and the 3-element vector nozzle of the turbofan aircraft engine of Kusuchen, the vertical takeoff can reach 45 tons in place. F-35 and 20C are completely incomparable. This not only allows the carrier-based aircraft to reach a full load of ammunition, but also allows for the direct attachment of 4 sets of fully loaded auxiliary fuel tanks. If there were aviation experts who knew this data, they would probably go crazy. During the following period, Su Chen will focus on developing this very precious rare earth motor directly in the prop factory of Beijing. When Su Chen dragged his tired body back into the dormitory, as soon as he opened the door, he heard the chaotic sound of voices coming from inside. "Oh my goodness, why is the barrel of this model tank crooked? Hurry up and help me stick the bomb compartment cover on this model airplane, it fell off." Zheng Shan and several other roommates, who were sleeping on their upper bunk, were all grabbing their hair fiercely, looking anxious and exhausted. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 3. Prop Factory, Seeking Flowers, Seeking Evaluation Tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. "Old Su, you're finally back." Zheng Shan shouted as soon as he saw Su Chen come back, "Do you have any plans for that short film on Monday? You don't know that all the military toys from the toy store outside our school have been snatched away." It turns out that Hu Qing and the short film assignment he left behind were really bad for these directing students. Hu Qinghe emphasized that documentaries should focus on authenticity. Cannot use montage and various mirror manipulation techniques. So, for students like Zheng Shan, what they can think of is to use special camera techniques such as realistic toy guns, airplanes, rockets, artillery, and tanks on the market, and try to directly reproduce them into a 5-minute short film that is as close to reality as possible. But the military theme requested by the teacher is too difficult. How could we get so many realistic military toy models? Zheng Shan looked anxious and said, "I finally got the model, but the quality is too poor to produce good results. Can you help me think of a way, Lao Su?" Su Chen looked at the anxious roommates in the room and finally understood their difficulties. Indeed, under their current conditions, it is quite difficult to gather enough realistic military toys for filming in such a short period of time. Su Chen still remembers when school first started. Zheng Shan, who is also doing business at home, also mocks the convenience store owner. He said he opened a toy store at the entrance of higher education institutions like theirs to sell to college students, and the owner of this toy store estimated that even the underpants he lost would be directly in deficit. But at this moment, Zheng Shan realized how clever the owner inside this toy was. He is probably familiar with Zheng Shan's teaching style, and the first class at the beginning of the school year was to have them shoot a documentary. Sure enough, when Jingshan passed by today, the toys in the store had already been sold out. Jingshan only had time to buy back a water gun. This is really embarrassing for Jingshan. Jingshan was scratching his ears and cheeks at this moment, and almost everyone unanimously chose to use toys to recreate a short 5-minute documentary as much as possible. It is inevitable that there will be homogenization. So Jingshan wanted to ask Su Chen how to shoot a military documentary on the homework to be submitted this Monday. Su Chen didn't hide anything, he just spoke up and said, I plan to make a physical prop model for F-35B in a scaled-down version. Hu Qin and Professor didn't mean to try to be as real as possible. This time, I will directly use a real prop for filming. Jingshan and several other roommates suddenly looked toward Su Chen in surprise. It seems like seeing Su Chen taking the wrong medicine or drinking too much. A short film assignment, directly creating special effects props. Seeing the people around him not believing, Su Chen shrugged his shoulders and didn't say much. The next day, Su Chen rushed back to the prop factory early again. The rare earth motor from yesterday has basically been made. Next, he needs to combine 2 sets of super high-power rare earth motors together, along with an attitude control system. I also need to go to the nearby Aerospace University Wind Tunnel Laboratory for testing. Next to Beijing is the very famous Aerospace University in Longhua. And the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics has a small wind tunnel laboratory. Many of the props produced by Beijing are actually very realistic. Sometimes, directors like Hu Qin and the older generation of filmmakers strive for excellence in the props they need for their films. When shooting some aerial combat themes, Hu Qin and the older generation of filmmakers, in order not to mislead the audience, sometimes make a prop model and take it to the wind tunnel laboratory to blow. The relationship between the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics and Beijing University is also inseparable. So as long as the application is made through normal channels, the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics will also allow the prop-making students from Beijing to briefly use the wind tunnel laboratory. Su Chen set up 2 sets of super rare earth lift fan motors at noon. Pushing it directly with a trailer, I dragged it over to the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, which is about 10 meters away. Yesterday, Su Chen had already applied to the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics to use the wind tunnel laboratory. The reason given by the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics is that there are some projects within the university that also require emergency use of wind laboratories. However, it's still up to Su Chen to squeeze out an hour of temporary access at noon. Pushing the prop model to the entrance of the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, Su Chen took a deep breath and smelled the scent of engine oil floating in the air. This place is very close to the airport, and from time to time, airplanes can be seen sweeping over the top of the head, making a rumbling sound. Su Chen bought several mantu directly from the canteen, as well as a can of mineral water with the largest capacity. He didn't have time to sit down and enjoy it. He just took a bite of mantu and felt the softness and sweetness of the dough. He put the remaining mantu and mineral water on his trailer, and then took advantage of the noon break of the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics to pull the 2 supermotors into the wind tunnel laboratory of the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Flight Test, Seeking Flowers, Seeking Evaluation Tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After completing the relevant procedures and signing a commitment letter, no damage to any laboratory facilities is allowed. Su Chen held the commitment letter and door card and expressed gratitude to the staff. He cautiously opened the door of the laboratory, as if entering a mysterious and sacred place. He saw various advanced and complex instruments and equipment in the wind tunnel laboratory, and his eyes sparkled with excitement and curiosity. He felt like an explorer about to discover a new continent. In the next hour, the small wind tunnel laboratory of the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics will be fully used by Su Chen. Su Chen closed the door, checked the safety measures, and then began his experiment. He didn't slack off or hesitate at all, he knew time was precious, and he couldn't waste any minute or second. After arriving at the wind tunnel laboratory, Su Chen first fixed the prototype lift fan formed by 2 sets of super rare earth motors on the test bench. He tightened the screws and nuts tightly to ensure that there was no looseness or air leakage. He gently caressed the prototype of the lift fan with his hand, as if caressing his beloved woman. He is full of confidence and pride in his work, and he feels that it is his most perfect creation. At the same time, take out your laptop and connect it to the main control system of the super rare earth motor through an RS-232 serial cable. The communication protocol running in the RS-232 serial port line is actually the same as the real avionics communication protocol. In the true F-35 carrier-based aircraft, this is controlled by the avionics system, which is the attitude stabilization system of the entire aircraft. At this time, the lift fan system of Su Chen is only a semi-finished product, and the main control functions of the avionics part are all on Su Chen's laptop. Real-time correction of the attitude stability of the entire test bench in the air through RS-232 serial port cable. Su Chen opened his laptop and entered some commands and parameters. His fingers were tapping rapidly on the keyboard, making a crackling sound. His eyes were fixed on the data and images on the screen, without missing any details. His mind is running with various complex calculations and reasoning, without any omissions. His breathing is steady and rhythmic, without any tension or panic. He is like a genius proficient in computers and flying, controlling everything. After Su Chen connected the power cord, simply press the power switch of the prototype of the 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system. The 2 sets of rare earth motors suddenly hummed with a loud wind chime. The scattered power lines on the ground were suddenly blown by these 2 sets of super high-power rare earth motors, flying around like human hair. Su Chen felt a strong airflow surging out of the lift fan prototype, causing his clothes and hair to flutter. The deafening roar of the prototype lift fan sounded like a wild beast roaring. A burnt smell permeated the air. This is due to the rare earth super caring for the smell generated by the high-speed friction between the blades and the air. The red and green lights flickering on the prototype of the lift fan resemble a star shining. He tasted a dry and bitter taste in his mouth, like a cup of strong coffee awakening him. On Su Chen's side, he was directly on the keyboard of the notebook and gently pressed the upward keyboard button. The button on the keyboard represents the entire prototype of the 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system slowly climbing up altitude. At this moment, Su Chen's palms were sweating nervously. Although he bound the system, he doesn't know if what the system says is true. Can the 20C multi-stage high-thrust turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system really work for him? At the next moment, there was a louder buzzing sound. The even greater wind chime comes from the blades propelled by 2 super high-power system motors. The entire test bench shook slightly. In Su Chen's surprised gaze, the entire 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system slowly detached from the ground and began to climb altitude in the air. Su Chen saw the test bench slowly and steadily rising in the air, like a huge and magical balloon floating. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters when reaching the preset height of 5 meters by Su Chen. Su Chen suddenly breathed a slight sigh of relief. Flying very steadily, beyond Su Chen's imagination. But the next moment, Su Chen's eyebrows furrowed instantly. Next, he opened the flight attitude control database on his laptop. Because just now Su Chen discovered that the entire vertical takeoff and landing system test bench did not have all 4 legs detached from the ground at the same time during takeoff. But there is a certain degree of lag in one of the feet. This is very dangerous for a carrier-based aircraft on a real battlefield. If there is a slight deviation in the attitude of the carrier-based aircraft during takeoff from the aircraft carrier deck, one of the angles is slightly slower and slightly lost. A gust of crosswind could potentially crash the plane. Su Chen couldn't help but shudder at the thought of this possibility. He felt that he couldn't take such a risk. He had to identify the problem and make adjustments and optimizations. He quickly browsed through the data and curves in the database and discovered an anomaly. It turned out that one of the rare earth motors had a slightly lower speed and torque, resulting in uneven lift. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Successful takeoff, seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Chen immediately modified the control parameters of the motor to make it consistent with the other three motors. He hopes this can solve the problem and allow the test bench to take off and land smoothly. After further adjustment of the control system database for takeoff by Su Chen, I tried the takeoff process again and found at this time the entire test bench was stable, almost all four legs lifted off the ground at the same time. Su Chen saw the test bench rise steadily and elegantly in the air, like a perfect and exquisite model. The test bench creates a strong and uniform lift field in the air, like an invisible and powerful hand supporting it. The crisp and harmonious sound emitted by the test bench in the air is like a beautiful and melodious piece of music. Next, Su Chen began loading wind tunnel models onto the vertical takeoff and landing system of a 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan. The wind tunnel model mainly simulates the wind field of various levels of wind speed. He wants to test the performance and stability of the 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system, and whether the prototype can maintain a stable flight attitude under different wind speeds and loads. He first adjusted the wind speed in the wind tunnel laboratory to level 1, which is about 5 meters per second. This is the lowest wind speed level, equivalent to a gentle breeze. He pressed a button on the remote control to start the prototype taking off vertically. The prototype uses a super rare earth electric motor and a flight attitude stabilization system, resulting in a very smooth takeoff without any shaking or deviation. The prototype hovered in the air for a while before starting to move horizontally. Su Chen looked at the data displayed on the laptop and nodded in satisfaction. The prototype performed well in level 1 wind without any abnormalities. He saved the data and then adjusted the wind speed in the wind tunnel laboratory to level 2 wind. A level 2 wind is equivalent to a wind speed of about 10 meters per second, which is a light wind. Su Chen once again let the prototype take off and perform various actions in the air. The prototype is still as stable as Mount Tai and has not been affected in any way. Su Chen continued to save the data and increased the wind speed to level 3. A level 3 wind is equivalent to a wind speed of about 15 meters per second, which is a weak strong wind. Su Chen repeated the previous operation, allowing the prototype to take off and perform various actions in the air. The prototype still performs well without any issues. Su Chen was secretly excited in his heart, feeling that his design had been successful. He is eager to continue testing higher levels of wind speed. He raised the wind speed to levels 4, 5, 6. All the way up to level 12. Level 12 is equivalent to a wind speed of about 35 meters per second, which is the level of a typhoon. This is the wind tunnel laboratory, with the highest level of wind speed. In such an environment, any ordinary drone will be blown upside down and even destroyed. But Su Chen's prototype still hovers firmly in the air and can perform various actions according to Su Chen's instructions. The prototype super rare earth electric motor and flight attitude stabilization system perfectly function, allowing the prototype to resist wind interference, maintain balance and stability. Su Chen looked at the data displayed on the laptop and couldn't believe his eyes. His prototype was able to fly at typhoon-level winds. What an amazing achievement. He jumped up excitedly, waved his arm fiercely, and shouted loudly. I succeeded. I created the world's most advanced vertical takeoff and landing system. His voice echoed in the laboratory. Su Chen lowered the wind speed to level 0, allowing the prototype to land smoothly on the trailer. Then he began the second test, which was the maximum takeoff weight test. He took out some weights from the trailer, which were 5 tons, 10 tons, and 15 tons respectively. He first fixed a 5-ton weight at the bottom of the prototype, and then let the prototype take off again. Although the prototype weighs 5 tons more, it can still take off easily and hover in the air. Su Chen saved the data and then replaced the weights with 10 tons. The prototype took off again and hovered in the air. Su Chen saved the data and then replaced the weights with 15 tons. This time, the prototype had some difficulty taking off and needed more power and time to reach a certain altitude. And there is also some shaking when hovering in the air, not as stable as before. Su Chen knew this was because 15 tons was already the limit of the prototype. After all, vertical takeoff not only requires upward lift, but also the 3-dimensional vectoring nozzle of the aircraft engine for ground injection to generate a maximum takeoff weight of 45 tons. However, even so, Su Chen still felt very satisfied. His prototype can reach a maximum takeoff weight of 45 tons, which is already an astonishing number. He saved the data and then let the prototype land on the trailer. He had just completed 2 tests when he heard his phone alarm ring. He looked at his phone screen and found that an hour had already passed. This means that it's time for him to use the wind tunnel laboratory. He quickly retracted the prototype onto the trailer and put the weights back into the bag. Then he turned off the laptop and unplugged the data cable. Finally, he sorted out the power supply in the laboratory and checked for any omissions or damage. After all, Su Chen borrowed a laboratory from the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and if it gets messy, there may not be another one. After confirming that everything was fine, he pushed the trailer out of the laboratory. He plans to return to Beijing to continue improving his design. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 6. University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, Seeking Flowers, Seeking Evaluation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, Su Chen felt his stomach growling in protest. He quickly picked up the remaining mantou and ate it. At the same time, the other hand was pulling the trailer and rushing back to the prop factory of Beijing. When Su Chen pushed his 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing system towards the entrance of Beijing. Suddenly, he looked up and saw a group of people walking in from the windy laboratory, which had just come out of Su Chen. What surprised Su Chen especially was that he saw the now very famous Liang Anna. Liang Anna took a gamble because she recently starred in an anti-fraud movie. Nowadays, it is also very popular in the entertainment industry. Su Chen himself knows some things about the entertainment industry while studying at Beijing University. He just heard that Liang Anna seemed to be filming a military-themed movie about air combat next. It seems obvious now that I have come to study at the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. After all, the cradle of the Shillong National Air Force at the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. After thinking for a moment, Su Chen leaned against the trailer network of his 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan for vertical takeoff and landing, allowing them to pass by in a grand manner before continuing to push the trailer back in the afternoon. Su Chen will continue to improve the software and hardware of the entire hammer washing system. At the same time, Su Chen also needs to create a certain proportion of 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing shell model. In the afternoon, we also need to find a camera to shoot a 5-minute short film. Time is tight, and the task is heavy. Su Chen wished he could immediately smash his wings and fly back to the prop factory of Beijing. Professor Wei, University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Senior Professor. At the same time, he is also the leader of a project team at Chengfei. At this time, Professor Wei is leading a team to develop vertical takeoff and landing capabilities for turbofan aircraft engines. Dragon Kingdom currently does not have fighter jets that can take off and land vertically. However, for the Dragon Kingdom, it may not be possible, but it is not possible to master such technology. So unless Professor Wei is specifically appointed to lead the research on some reserve technologies with the turbofan 10 aircraft engine as the main body. The main research project is China's aviation engine, which is equipped with thrust fans for vertical takeoff and landing. Professor Wei led everyone towards the wind tunnel laboratory while explaining to young Anna next to him. Anna, it can be said that our vertical takeoff and landing project in Longhua is currently lagging behind foreign countries. And my project is at most a pre-research project. After reserving certain technologies in the future, if vertical takeoff and landing really has great value in the future battlefield, then the technologies we tested today will be quickly put into use. Although this project is only a reserve technology project, of course, some of it involves core secrets, and you are still unable to participate. I hope you understand this. Liang Anna's face immediately showed a grateful expression. Liang Anna was also allowed to join Professor Wei's team through a lot of connections. She is able to follow Professor Wei's side every day and receive some guidance from him about space, which has greatly benefited her. She dare not continue to learn more in depth secrets. After all, even if she was doing some simple experiments next to Professor Wei, she had signed a confidentiality agreement worth dozens of pages yesterday. Compared to giving her autographs to fans, it made her nervous at the time. Professor Wei's team consists of about 10 members. Basically, they have a graduate degree or above from the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. The leaders of several groups, even postdoctoral fellows. They quickly pushed a lift fan system over. Mounted on the test launch platform, connected to the power supply and various instruments responsible for monitoring. These students under my command are busy working hard for the professor. This brick is explaining to Liang Anna. Firstly, what we are testing is whether our lift fan system can successfully detach from the ground without operating the wind laboratory under various wind speed conditions. In the second stage, after leaving the ground, our lift fan system was able to maintain a flight attitude in the air for 15 seconds, which was a huge victory. Professor Wei is clearly very confident in the lift fan system he has developed. Anna, don't underestimate these 15 seconds. This is a significant improvement in our Dragon country's vertical takeoff and landing system, but it has a milestone significance. Liang Anna watched as Professor Wei's numerous students quickly raised the lift fan and various instruments and meters. My gaze is also getting brighter and brighter. She just saw one of the researchers pressing a power button. A loud buzzing sound could be heard throughout the entire wind tunnel laboratory. The huge wind pressure generated caused Lanana's hair to flutter directly with the wind. Professor Wei pulled Liang Anna and retreated to a safe distance. Then teach Liang Anna a windshield. Windshields can wrap around a person's eyes and nose. When aircraft engines are tested on a test bench, it is actually very dangerous. Due to the enormous thrust of aircraft engines, some small components can sometimes fly around aimlessly. Wearing this specially designed windproof mirror can prevent a person's face from being directly injured by some small parts. As a group leader under Professor Wei extended a thumbs up to Professor Wei's side. This is a specialized sign language for aircraft engines during testing. Professor Wei knew from the thumbs up of the researcher that the entire test bench, including the lift fan system and instruments, was in normal working condition. Nod for the professor. Immediately after, the researcher put down his hand and began manipulating the climb program of the lift fan. Next, Professor Wei and his team's lift fan roared even louder. Immediately after, the entire lift fan system slowly detached from the ground. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Direct Takeoff, Seeking Flowers, Seeking Evaluation Tickets. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Whether it was Anna Liang or Professor Wei, including every member present at the moment, they were so nervous that they forgot to breathe when they saw the lift fan system slowly detach from the ground. When the lift fan system is about 20 centimeters above the ground, everyone hold their breath. Even Professor Wei directly took out a stopwatch and pressed a timing device on it. The numbers on the stopwatch start to jump quickly. Everyone, including Professor Wei and Anna Liang, was staring intently at the one in the air. The lift fan system developed by Professor Wei's team. At this moment, the lift fan system swayed back and forth in the air as if drunk. It's like a child who has just learned to walk, stumbling and stumbling. Running back and forth on an open space. Even a few times, due to the severe shaking, the testing instrument connected to a dedicated testing cable was pulled on the desktop with a creaking sound. However, at this moment, excitement was hard to conceal on all faces. Because Professor Wei saw the stopwatch in his hand and it had already run for 10 seconds. This also means that their developed lift fan system has been in place in the air for 10 seconds. Of course, there are no testing conditions for loading the wind tunnel at this time. It's completely in a natural state without wind. As Professor Wei and his team's lift fan system wobbled more and more. Even a few researchers had no choice but to hold an instrument and follow their lift fan system back and forth, swaying left and right. Otherwise, their instruments and meters are connected to the lift fan system through cables, and it is highly likely that the cables will be instantly torn, making them all very valuable instruments and meters reimbursable. With a bang. The flight attitude stability system has reached the maximum threshold. The lift fan system of Professor Wei's team. It just tilted a bit and then fell to the ground. Even one of the motor parts emitted a burnt smell. It is obvious that the internal wiring of the motor has problems due to overloaded operation. Even so, Professor Wei's team still applauded directly. Professor Wei placed the stopwatch in his hand next to Liang Anna and said, "Today's first flight on the real-time platform far exceeded our expectations. The lift fan system developed by our team can maintain a flight attitude in the air for up to 17 seconds. Professor Wei's face couldn't conceal his extremely excited expression at this moment. This is a small step for our University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and indeed a big step for our Dragon country, indicating our preliminary reserve system with vertical takeoff and landing technology. Anna, don't underestimate this lift fan system. Its own weight is equivalent to nearly a ton or more. Relying solely on a fan and flight attitude control software can achieve a remarkable result of taking off a 1-ton object in place and maintaining it in the air for 17 seconds. The entire wind tunnel laboratory was filled with cheers as it paused. Professor Wei originally wanted to say a few more words to Liang Anna. After all, he believes that these popular science knowledge are still very useful for Liang Anna's subsequent film making. However, Professor Wei suddenly felt something was wrong and looked up in the direction of Liang Anna. But she found that Lianana's beautiful eyes were wide and small, and her mouth was slightly open. A strange expression flashed on his face as he looked at a huge display screen next to the wind tunnel laboratory. This display screen adopts an LED dot matrix display method. The display screen basically records some key indicators tested in the wind tunnel laboratory. After watching for a while, Liang Anna's face flashed with a strange expression, and she turned to look at Professor Wei. "Professor Wei, right. Just now you said that our lift fan system only weighs 1 ton. Ah, but I see on the screen that our lift fan system weighs 5 tons, isn't it? Oh no, there are still 10 tons and 15 tons left. Which number is correct?" Professor Wei laughed heartily at the celebrity student's lack of understanding of scientific knowledge upon hearing this. Anna. You don't know some knowledge about our aerospace major, and I can't laugh at you, but you don't have any common sense. I have to say, you still need to make up for extra classes privately in the future. The vertical takeoff and landing system of fighter jets is mainly powered by two sources. One part of it is the lift fan system I am currently developing. Its main function is to provide vertical upward propulsion to the front 1/3 of the fighter jet. The other is the three-dimensional vector nozzle of aviation engines. During vertical takeoff and landing, whether it is the F-35B or the previous French Harrier fighter, the tail nozzle of the engine needs to be rotated to an angle almost perpendicular to the ground through the three-dimensional vector nozzle. In the direction of reaching the upward force, push the rear 2/3 of the fighter jet, which is also the heaviest part, for vertical takeoff. It can be said that the propulsion of the lift fan system and the three-dimensional vector nozzle of the aircraft engine for direct blowing to the ground are both indispensable. But did you know that the combination of F-35B and F-35B can only push a maximum takeoff weight of 18.9 tons? Just now, you said that just a lift fan system can achieve a maximum takeoff weight of 15 tons. How could this be possible? To have this technology, it still requires me to lead so many team members, as well as a lot of research and development forces from Tsinghua Institute. What should we do? Our Longuas carrier-based aircraft technology will take off directly. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 8. Wind Tunnel Laboratory, Seeking Flowers, Seeking Evaluation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just when Professor Wei wanted to say a few more words, Liang Anna extended her hand directly, pointing to the nearby sign. Professor, look at the display screen on the Wind Tunnel Laboratory, it shows like this. I'm not just empty-handed. Professor Wei saw the expression on Liang Anna's face and immediately pushed his glasses, looking at the display screen of the nearby Wind Tunnel Laboratory. Professor Wei was momentarily stunned when he saw the number displayed on the screen behind the flat-bottomed myopia mirror. The display screen only shows the aircraft to be tested. The maximum takeoff weight was loaded with 5 tons, 10 tons, and 15 tons, respectively. The most crucial thing is that Professor Wei squinted his eyes and looked at the font below the screen. The more he saw behind him, the more he was frightened. The display screen shows the aircraft that has just been tested, with a maximum takeoff weight of 5 tons, 10 tons, and 15 tons. And the altitude above the ground is very stable. It can simply be described as stable as Mount Tai. The maximum takeoff distance reached 15 meters. But Professor Wei knew that 15 meters was definitely not the maximum takeoff altitude of the aircraft to be tested. Because the ceiling height of their wind-driven laboratory is 15 meters. This also means that the test aircraft shown on the screen just now has reached the maximum height limit of the wind laboratory. The most crucial thing is that the test aircraft has a very stable flight attitude in the air at an altitude of 15 meters under takeoff weights of 5 tons, 10 tons, and 15 tons. The above shows that the displacement of this aircraft in the air can be controlled at around 5 centimeters even under a maximum takeoff weight of 15 tons. The vibration amplitude of an aircraft in the air is controlled at 5 centimeters, which can be said to be a very perfect data. Even the top-level Apache helicopter cannot be controlled within such a precise range. Due to the size limitation of the display screen, the information in the wind laboratory is scrolling. Especially when the information on this side was refreshed and scrolled to the next display page, Professor Wei immediately took a deep breath of cold air when he saw the back. Because he suddenly realized that this colored aircraft not only reached a takeoff altitude of 15 meters in a calm environment. The takeoff weights reached 5 tons, 10 tons, and 15 tons respectively, and even after that, wind speed and pressure tests were directly loaded. From a level 1 wind all the way up to level 12, it's a super typhoon. The 12-level Super Typhoon is actually the rigorous testing mode of what Professor Wei and his team usually refer to as the Wind Laboratory. Also known as the Tornado mode by them. What Professor Wei and the researchers below never expected was that the aircraft just tested had a maximum takeoff weight of 15 tons. Moreover, even at a takeoff altitude of 15 meters, the displacement in the air can still be controlled at around 10 centimeters. This is really beyond his imagination. Professor Wei's tone was raised a few degrees and he said to a researcher under his command, "Immediately go to the main control room of the Wind Power Laboratory and adjust the records." Whose test record was this just now? At this moment, Professor Wei had countless thoughts in his mind. It is obvious that the test data on the display screen is not the test data of the vertical takeoff and landing lift fan developed by his team. Because they didn't even add it to the wind tunnel experiment just now. Without wind experiments, the sensors were unable to collect the test data of their lift fan. The only explanation is that the data on this display screen is the result of the data tested by the previous team. And the other party probably doesn't understand some of the operations of the Wind Laboratory, so they haven't had a chance to clear their test results yet. Can it be said that Shenfei's team is already working on the lift fan part of the vertical takeoff and landing fighter jet? But how could this be? Shenfei, who has been registered with the General Staff, does not have such a project. Professor Wei's mind was spinning. Shenfei is the only team in the Emergency Public Relations and Reserves of vertical takeoff and landing related technology. After all, this technology is not necessary for today's Dragon Kingdom. Compared to the 5th-generation fighter jets and 6th-generation aircraft engines, vertical takeoff and landing technology can be said to have very low priority. The entire Dragon Country General Staff should just let their team do such reserve technology. There is no need to bring Shenfei along to do it. In that case, it can only be said to be a waste of scientific research resources. But Shenfei did not do it, and the Aerospace University is a small wind tunnel laboratory. Don't say it's the 5th-generation fighter jet. Even the 3rd-generation fighter jets cannot be deployed in such a small aerodynamic laboratory at a space university. Moreover, the 3rd-generation fighter jets do not have vertical takeoff and landing capabilities at all. Large helicopters cannot successfully take off in such a windy laboratory. The space is too small. So the only explanation, this is highly likely to be data measured by a 4-axis aircraft. Whether it is a civilian or military version of a quadcopter, the maximum takeoff weight of this thing is less than 100 pounds. The display screen clearly shows a maximum takeoff weight of 15 tons. This number startled everyone's eyes. Professor Wei's team members were immediately overwhelmed. Some people come directly to the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics to access the information here. Others simply took out their phones and began contacting them at various research institutes of aircraft to inquire about any recent vertical takeoff and landing experiments being conducted at the University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. The takeoff weight of 15 tons is really amazing. If there were such high-performance aircraft, there would be no need for their reserve technology team to carry out. Just use it directly, then take off directly, seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets, Qingming outing in happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. This is a talent, seeking flowers, seeking evaluation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the second day. It happened to be Monday. Su Chen, along with Zheng Shan and other classmates from the directing department, sat in the classroom anxiously waiting. Last night, Su Chen rushed and finally shot a 5-minute promotional video of the 20-seat vertical takeoff and landing fighter jet and sent it to the teacher's email. Hu Qinghe is also a renowned and very strict professor at Beijing University. So sitting on the stool today, everyone felt like they were on pins and needles. I don't know if their homework will catch Hu Qinghe's eye. The class bell rang, and Hu Qinghe walked directly into the classroom. Everyone, including Su Chen and Jing Shan, felt a thump when they saw Hu Qing and the serious expression on his face. Su Chen is because of the physical special effects props he made himself. Because time is really tight. Especially after completing the lift fan test, he adjusted and upgraded the software to make the flight attitude control more perfect. This led to when he returned to the prop processing factory, the factory's master had already finished work. Helpless, Su Chen could only use his only technology to process the outer shell of a vertical takeoff and landing fighter jet. After the shell is processed, it is time for Hu Qing and his side to receive the homework. Su Chen couldn't even paint this shell in time. I can only face the lift fan system that is loaded. The shell of this 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing fighter jet, which is made of sparkling stainless steel, was filmed in a 5-minute short film. So at this moment, Su Chen's heart was very uneasy. Sure enough, after entering the classroom, I don't know if it's just a discovery. Hu Qinghe's gaze seemed to be in his own direction, and he paused a little longer. This made Su Chen's heart skip a beat. Last class, when discussing the basic qualities of documentary filmmakers, I mentioned that as a documentary filmmaker, all the language used in your shots is just 2 words. Hu Qinghe knocked on the blackboard. Is it true or not? Because you are filming a documentary, don't mislead the audience, but obviously many students didn't listen. After speaking, Hu Qinghe opened his notebook directly. Selected the first negative material. Jing Shan, please step forward and tell me what kind of gun the gun you are shooting is. Su Chen looked up curiously to see the image in the projector. I saw Jing Shan's works appearing in the projector. Jing Shan is the toy water gun he bought from the school gate. The surface has been painted with black gun paint. Not to mention that this guy's shooting technique is still very old-fashioned, and he even intentionally applied gun oil to some areas. Under the illumination of the studio lights, not to mention this toy water gun, it looks quite textured. However, what Hu Qinghe said made everyone laugh out loud. Jing Shan, I don't object to you taking a close-up shot with a toy gun. After all, everyone does this. Have you verified your toy gun yet? Jing Shan made a big red face while standing in his position. I never expected to be turned into the first negative typical person, and now Jing Shan just shook his head. He painted the gun paint, then applied gun oil, and spent half a day searching for shooting angles in the studio. He didn't have time to study what this gun really had. Hu Qinghe knocked on the blackboard again. Now let me tell you, your toy gun has a Glock 17 barrel. The Picatinny stand is used, but the scope on top is the Beretta 92 FS. Your trigger part is even more powerful, it's actually the part of the Colt automatic pistol. The stock part, which is even more surprising, is actually our 92 automatic pistol. At this point, Hu Qinghe couldn't help but laugh and cry. What makes me feel the most exaggerated is that your fast and slow machine is actually the Desert Eagles. Kid, are you playing too many games? Upon hearing Hu Qinghe's detailed introduction, everyone in the classroom burst into laughter. Jing Shan was so embarrassed that he wished he could just find a crack in the ground and dive in. When he rushed into that toy store, almost all the toys were sold out. There are not many opportunities for him to choose. He just looked at this water gun, which had a good appearance, so he bought it directly and applied a layer of paint and oil. Then start shooting directly. Who would have thought this water gun had so many stories? Good guy, it is the direct combination of classic parts from various famous guns into a combination. This designer. Also a talent. Are you doing transformers to directly form the head here? You are going to take the top spot in Gene Men. When several classmates heard this, their tears almost burst into laughter. Su Chen couldn't hold his tension anymore, sitting next to Jing Shan enjoying the darkness. Unexpectedly, Hu Qinghe just turned his head to look in the direction of Su Chen. Su Chen, don't be happy either. I'll ask you what the purpose of the documentary I talked about in the previous lesson is. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Intuitive calling, seeking flowers, seeking evaluation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Su Chen didn't expect to arrive at herself so soon. Hurry up and stand up. Professor Hu, last time you mentioned that the purpose of documentary filmmakers filming is to be real, or real. Zheng Shan was so angry that he just opened Su Chen's documentary assignment. When a 45-degree angle shot of a fifth-generation fighter jet appeared directly in the projector. Subconsciously, all the students exclaimed directly. Especially later, Su Chen remotely controlled the 20C vertical takeoff and landing function of the stainless steel casing he developed through a data cable. Slowly take off directly from the ground. Then it seems to be in a stationary state in the air. Then with Su Chen's control. The 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan vertical takeoff and landing fighter jet rotated 180 degrees in the air. Then came a very cool and handsome body aileron roll. With a scalp-tingling sound. Fly out of the camera. Then the entire short film came to an end. Suddenly, the whole classroom was filled with a roar. Su Chen, this short film was shot too aggressively. Especially when the model of the fifth-generation fighter jet took off in place, the young people I saw were all boiling with passion. The shell of Su Chen's fifth-generation fighter jet is still perfectly crafted, with the only drawback possibly being the stainless steel surface material. After all, Su Chen's location is Beijing. There are various materials available, but titanium alloy materials are simply not available. That thing, firstly, has a high price. Furthermore, it is impossible for strategic resources to enter the civilian market. However, seeing that although this fifth-generation fighter jet is a model, its design is still very domineering, everyone's eyes, including Zheng Shan, immediately lit up. However, at this moment, Hu Qinghe did frighten his face and fiercely knocked on the blackboard again. First of all, I would like to commend Su Chen for not directly using toys to shoot military documentaries like Zheng Shan and some other students did through special camera methods. Su Chen, instead of burying his head in the prop factory, personally processed such a model bit by bit. Alright, that's all for the praise. Next, I'm going to criticize. Su Chen, your work has a special close dot up, which is that this fighter jet actually has vertical takeoff and landing function. I just want to ask Su Chen, is this true? And before you process this documentary, can you study it well? Even the F-35B is just a medium-sized fighter jet, and the F-22 Raptor of Lighthouse Country cannot achieve vertical takeoff and landing function because its own weight is too large to achieve vertical takeoff and landing. And you can directly take our Dragon Country's fifth-generation fighter jet. Do you know that our fifth-generation fighter jet is a heavy fighter jet, which has a lot of weight compared to the F-2 Raptor? Can you do vertical takeoff and landing with this thing? Hu Qinghe knocked hard on the blackboard a few more times. Su Chen, please answer me. Su Chen looked up at Hu Qinghe's direction and thought for a moment. In fact, he specifically calculated on his own draft paper after returning yesterday. Even the fifth-generation fighter jet of Dragon Country is actually equipped with its own 20C multi-stage high-thrust counter-rotating lift turbofan for vertical takeoff and landing. It can also easily achieve vertical takeoff and landing. After all, their own lift fan system is combined with the three-dimensional vector nozzle tail nozzle of the aircraft engine. The maximum takeoff weight can reach 45 tons. Pushing the fifth-generation fighter jet of Dragon Country to take off vertically is simply too easy. It's just Zhang Fei eating bean sprouts, it's a piece of cake. At present, Su Chen nodded in affirmation. Professor Hu, I think this can have. Su Chen only needs to submit some of his core technical information to the country. So he believes that with the rapid research and development capabilities of Qingfei and Xinfei, the fifth-generation fighter jet of Longhua can directly take off vertically. At that time, on these aircraft carriers of the Dragon Kingdom, there will be no need to see long runways or electromagnetic launch devices. Just place a sufficiently large apron on the aircraft carrier, filled with airplanes. Next, the fifth-generation fighter jet of Dragon Kingdom can take off directly from the ground. How fragrant this is! Hu Qinghe saw that Su Chen was still stubborn, and his face was immediately filled with anger. Jokes, there can be more. Su Chen, I can tell you for sure that this is really not. Your whole body is cooked, I think your mouth is the hardest. Let me ask you, our Dragon country currently doesn't even have the basic technology for vertical takeoff fighter jets. Can you tell me how to have it? At this moment, Zheng Shan tugged at Su Chen's hem and whispered. Su Chen, stop talking about it. Our country's technology really cannot achieve this. Even the F-35B is just a medium-sized fighter jet. F-22 cannot achieve a direct vertical takeoff, so hurry up and stop talking. Apologize to the teacher, it's not embarrassing. Seeking flowers, seeking evaluation tickets, seeking monthly tickets, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.